let's dive into our first topic of the day, which is the ideas behind DeSalle, the new map. So let's talk about the goals of the new map while my cat is joining the stream as always. And let's talk about the new gameplay element that we wanted to introduce. And I'm giving it over to our guest today.
So I'll take this one over, I guess. The red line throughout the entire map is, as you could already tell a bit by the trailer, I hope, is verticality. So in terms of gameplay, we wanted new surroundings, but we wanted also everyone to feel right at home. So we have the same basic fundamental rules, but verticality is the keyword and is the big factor in this map that you'll see repeatedly throughout the in-between spaces and in every single compound. And we also wanted to make sure that we offer room for all the metas and loadouts and everything you guys might want to do that emerged over time. So basically from a gameplay side.
Exactly. And Stefan, do you have anything to say from art direction side?
Yeah, I mean, the third map introduces mountains, of course, introduces lots of like rocky terrain. We're a bit more Midwest, like think of like classical Western sceneries. We still have the bayou, we still have the swamp, so this is still an element, just also to connect it with the old maps. But we are a lot more dry, we have less water, and we also have more like this typical Western towns, more this frontier style, with the false facade and things like that. We generally try to do a lot more variety in the architectural themes. So you will see like the false facades of the Western towns, cool new very big brick buildings, and I don't want to spoil too much yet, but this was a big goal of the map, to just make it fresh in terms of like the man-made structures. And of course also from the outside, the verticality is a big thing. So how we design the compounds together with level design, also how the buildings are constructed, when it comes to floors and so on. And then one thing that was important for us is to have we want to go bigger basically. So there's a bit of a journey. The first map has like mostly smaller shacks in the swamp, very much water. The second map has the tendency to have a little bit bigger structures and a bit more industrial. And for this map, we continue this trend and also try to connect compounds together. So we have two towns, for example, two separate compounds that are like combined into like a bigger town. It's a lower and upper part. That was also a goal of the map.
Exactly, and as Stefan mentioned, we don't want to spoil everything just yet, because we will actually go through each compound separately where you will be able to see everything. And obviously the other goal of the new map as well, to still feel definitely like Hunt, but completely fresh compared to the other maps. So these were our main goals before going into it, and it should allow for a big variety of playstyles as well. So you will be able to play your favorite loadouts or your favorite weapons on the new map, which was very important from gameplay perspective. Maybe Tom can elaborate on that a bit.
Yeah, we did a bunch of tests, and especially with verticality, like also looking at our other two maps where we have a mixture. For example, the first map, Stillwater Bayou, has a good mixture, I think, of very dense forests, but also open fields, so it allows for a good variety of play styles. When Civil War came out, it was the second map, Lost in Delta, when it came out, it was much more open, which we patched up afterwards, and for this one, we wanted to get it right from the get-go and make sure that everything is supported. So there's room for you to play long range, there's room for you to play short range, and every playstyle should find their place.
Exactly, that sounds awesome. So with the goals out of the way, which obviously we had before starting on the new map, let's talk a bit about how it came to be and what's the history behind the new map. So as the guys mentioned, one of the main goals was to create a new map with way more verticality compared to the other maps. And maybe you guys can tell us how it all began.
I mean, I can quickly just go from the outside. So we wanted to have more rocky landscapes, so we started to create like little prototypes, like little separate spaces where we then worked together with the level designers and found like many things that work, but even more things that don't work. So it was more like, okay, we tried that, it's not so good. We tried that, it's not so good. So that's the process of iteration, what you do in the beginning. So it's a bit like brainstorming. So you say, okay, there's no wrong ideas. We just try out many things, and some things will stick with us. And then we take the best things of this prototyping phase and then make a new map out of it. One example in this phase was that we had a lot more slopes and mountains even back then, like even more than now. And then we had a lot of fights where people were like on two opposite sort of like mountaintops. Don't think like really big mountains, more like hills. And they were just trying to shoot each other and zigzagging, and was just not supporting the rules of Hunt and the Hunt gameplay. And that is one example which we found out in the prototyping phase. And then from the art side, it was more about look dev. So just trying out how a good Midwest landscape looks like. We, of course, the autumn theme of the map, like you've seen in the trailer now, and that means like a new color scheme. We are at fall right now, and that was the main things actually from the outside, and trying to connect it somehow to the assets and to the old maps and make like a really round, well-working package with all the new assets.
From gameplay side, it was basically finding that at least one big thing that sets it apart from the other two maps. Because for us, we had time for experimentation. We had time, as Stefan mentioned, for different iterations and trying out what doesn't work and what would stick and what would work. So we really wanted to find something that would make this map not only look new and fresh, but also play differently, play unique. Because there's no point in just having yet another same map. We wanted to have something new, and this is where we came up with the verticality as the unique feature of this map, and then try to really push it and find the right amounts, find the right density, and just basically iterate on it until we get it right.
Yeah, and we actually have a few examples in terms of images. Like here you can see like some ideas when we are researching stuff for the new map or thinking about what it could look like in the future. And we have some awesome like structured infrastructural upside views. Maybe you guys can talk about it.
I can see it a little bit hard in the stream, unfortunately, but there's definitely the railways are there in this picture. You can see the white dotted line. Then there's the main roads there and the secondary roads and all the more infrastructural points. So this is how like the map is planned. Of course, they reiterate based on that, but this is the original plan going in. So it makes sense. Like, for example, a coal mine is connected to a coal train fill and so on. So it all makes sense in terms of infrastructure, how the compounds are laid out, what is on the border, what isn't on the border, and so on. So there's many things to consider like that when it comes to realistic world building. And we can talk about the next slide, I think.
Yes.
And this is another example. Here you can see the different biomes. So biomes is something like a forest would be a biome, or something like an open swamp is a biome, or like rocks and mountains, just different types of landscape. And this is where we draw in where all this landscape should be, where the water should be, what are the transitions between the different types of biomes. And that just helps us visualize the map and also get a good plan to what we want to do and achieve. And of course, this is all like back and forth with level design. So we talk about like approaches through the water. Do we maybe need a passage here because it's too much open water, and so on and so forth. I think you can imagine, this is all part of the development cycle.
So Tom, in the chat, a lot of people think from this picture there's a lot of water. Do you have anything to maybe say about that?
Well, what we learned from map 1 and what you will find and later also see on the minimap, I'm not sure where we're going to show it, is that for this, what we learned from the first map and already, I think, applied on the second map as well, is that water doesn't really serve well as a gameplay space. it's more, we use it more as an obstacle. So also in this case, you'll find that it's not a whole lot of water. There's a lot more solid ground, and water is really just more of an obstacle in your way between certain routes that you might want to take, but then reconsider. If you see a water devil in front of you, maybe you might take that bridge and, you know, get ambushed or something. So that's where water really has its strength, and this is also how we applied it on this map.
Yeah, and the guys, I see that a lot of you are scared because it looks like the water is very thick, but as you will see later, it's actually not as bad. So expect less water. Yeah, but let's talk about the themes of the new map. So what new themes we have, and let's show some examples of the Midwest environmental themes.
Yeah, we will come to the compounds in a second, but now first, yeah, just to quickly explain what we want to do in terms of themes. So coal is a big theme, of course. We have more mountains, we have coal, and then industries related to that, like a coal mine or something, a coal train fill. Coal is also used in some other places. Then a quarry, of course, and also what I mentioned in the beginning is this more civilized town, like so the first map. Stillwater Bayou has more like some sort of like more like shanty type town, very unstructured in a way. The second map had Arden Parish, which is a bit more structured, a bit more civilized, and this time it's even like one step further and even bigger, more buildings, for the lack of better word, more civilized. That was also a goal of this map. So we want to give like some kind of progression, you know, not doing like 3 variations of the same map with slightly different elements. We really want to evolve in a way. And yeah, as was mentioned, there is actually less water, even though it didn't look like this in this image. This image was probably, it's from the development cycle. We probably reduced it a little bit, you know, during our playtests, based on playtest feedback. Yeah, this was just an example of how we work.
Exactly. And then, yeah, here's the image Tom was talking about, the actual image of the new map. And here you can actually see that water are just more like rivers, I would say.
Yeah, you can see it's more small rivers really cuts through the landscape and not just huge masses of water. It's just really small rivers here and there. And more, as I said, more serves more as an obstacle rather than an actual gameplay space.
Exactly. I think it looks awesome and people will love that because I actually heard a lot of feedback regarding water and now you have less, so it's gonna be awesome.